here to talk about the cultural impact. Well, I meant to, but to be honest, we don't really know yet. And we're still so early in this conversation about what virtual reality is that we probably won't know until in the future we're looking back decades in the past and say, hey, this was actually one of these different things. So instead I thought I'd show some examples of how we're working in the cultural industries and applying virtual reality to, we're not applying it, we're helping other groups apply it in their endeavours. And that's a key thing. I'll speak about this a bit more, I'll elaborate a bit more in a second, but a lot of VR is driven by technology and agendas and headsets and cameras, and for us, the big shift in our thinking that really helped is saying, well, it's not about that. It's actually about what are different groups trying to do. So I'll start first though by properly introducing who I am and where I come from. So South Australia is right in the middle of Australia, right down the bottom, and it's not exactly the centre of virtual reality. But from South Australia, we've managed to do quite a few pretty incredible things. We did the first symphony orchestra concert with the Adelaide Symphony in VR in 2014. We've been training sports people using VR headsets. We're making films about backyard cricket that somehow make it to the Taipei Film Festival, and also Sundance and South by Southwest. And South Australia is actually a pretty extraordinary place for this technology. We have great support. We have, first of all, film festivals, which is so important to virtual reality storytelling because it provides a platform to actually speak to the general public through storytelling, and for us that's for the right reasons. But the Adelaide Film Festival is really spectacular in supporting virtual reality. They supported one of the first works in VR, Lynette Walworth's work Collisions back in 2015. They supported Summation of Force, but it wasn't just from a financial perspective, it was from a lot of support with credibility as well, helping us actually engage with the world through the mechanism of film festivals, which is really important. But they also have an investment fund too, and they've been very generous in supporting virtual reality in that space. We also have state government bodies, funding agencies that support the film industry, and they're very active in supporting virtual reality. We also have generous tax incentives and things. And we've also got some television channels, government television channels, in particular SBS, who have been very supportive of virtual reality in the past. But a challenge with that is that for every dollar they spend in virtual reality, that's a dollar not going to filmmakers in a time when filmmaking isn't exactly very easy to raise money for. It's money that's not going into documentaries. So for us, we had to think a little bit differently about how we structured our business and our projects so that we're not trying to fight over pieces of a pie that really we're all on the same team for. In the arts, we're all on the same team with what we're trying to achieve. And so what we try to do is look at, well, okay, how can we impact the system in a way that actually looks beyond the arts to support the arts as well? So that's a little bit about that. We started this company in 2014, me and my younger brother. We've now got 15 people on, and we're working across a whole range of industries. We've got production capability, we've got interactive capability, we've got different groups working across different industries. But what we had to step back and look at was, why are we actually doing this? Because it's so easy to be buffered around by the VR conversations about headsets and now AR and MR and who knows what it will be in 2 or 3 years. So we said, right, despite us working in all these different industries, we want to make sure that we're looking at technology, not just VR, we're looking at how we can make sure technology is driven by the right things. And that's driven really our engagement with the arts. And when we frame it like that, we go, well, okay, this isn't about us. We try to support artists like the previous speaker, and it's an interesting thing when we're working in the film industry, but we're not the centre of attention. We're actually trying to facilitate more than anything. And it's not just facilitating with financing, it's working with artists and groups to understand the potential of this new technology, the dangers and as much as the opportunities, because it's not as simple as just make it and everyone will watch it. Exhibition is a big problem. And yeah, it's really been eye-opening kind of playing in that space, because we came from a film background, we came from an animation background, but virtual reality isn't just an extension of that, there's so many other things as well. And as I said before, VR conversations are too much about the technology. These headsets, the whole VR game has really been driven by investment, a lot of speculative investment in new technology and money trying to find a home. And we get perennially frustrated by how much everyone promises the world from this technology. Oh, it's exponential growth, everyone's going to wear headsets. When really we should be talking about what's the value of this technology in these different areas. And so again, our approach is to recognize that virtual reality is only a tool. And when we see it as a tool, we go, okay, well, what's the purpose and why are we using this tool and what's the best way to use it? So again, we're based out of Adelaide and Melbourne, but we're working around Australia and New Zealand. We're collaborating with co-productions as well. But with co-productions, it's about the content, it's not about the money. If we get a lot of co-productions actually do it to unlock other funds rather than doing it as a cultural sharing process, and that's putting the cart before the horse. And yeah, as I said before, we're working in other industries, infrastructure, mining, we're doing a lot of training, we're doing a lot with sports, we're doing live streaming concerts, and I'll show you how we actually apply them to the arts in a second. So these are our main collaborations. It's really a privilege to work with a lot of these groups. We never thought we'd actually end up working with these people and institutions who are so famous in Australia, but I'll go through them very quickly. The Adelaide Symphony was one of our first collaborators in virtual reality. We've been a formal sponsor for 4 years now. And the way that we're looking at it isn't just in terms of filming a VR concert. We're looking at audience development. How do we bring the symphony to different groups of people around South Australia? We're looking at how do we augment performances so we can actually use projection that's based around what the composer and what the artists are visualizing to actually create new and exciting ways of augmenting performances. We've also worked with the Sydney Dance Company, who are touring here later this year at the New Performing Arts Centre, which is really exciting. But we did the first dance works with them back in 2015 as well. That was one of the first commissions in virtual reality, and through that we learned a lot about the choreography rather than editing in VR. So much of VR is a different language than traditional media, and choreography taught us a lot about different ways in which we could frame ideas and guide people's attention. Australian Dance Theatre, similarly, they're a very famous dance group in Australia, and luckily we actually have them in South Australia. And we engage with them through a group called Sandpit, again, to produce feature works. The Australian String Quartet, we're also a sponsor. The Seraphim Trio, we did some works with them in 2014 right through. And then the film festivals. Now we sponsor the Adelaide Film Festival, the Melbourne Film Festival, which has helped us understand the exhibition part of the equation as much as the technical part of the equation. So we're proud to say we're a sponsor of both again this year, and we're part of the family, which is great. And lastly, the Australian International Documentary Conference. We actually sponsored them for the first time this year in a different way. It wasn't with technology, it wasn't with trying to showcase different elements. We actually set the speed dating. So we got together all of the different funding agencies and galleries and film festivals and interested parties who were investing in VR. And then we also got together 10 different filmmakers, or 10 different groups of filmmakers with ideas. It's a highly competitive process, but we had this speed pitching section. It wasn't really a pitching, it was more of a relationship building session because we had different types of groups there for very different reasons. But what we tried to do is say, look, if we're going to take responsibility for making sure that VR stays on the right track, we need to help support the community. So it became this great event, and we're excited to see how many are made in the 12 months that follows. But it was a really open conversation, and we're proud to support that again next year as well. So, in addition to the institutions, we do a lot of work with artists. Summation of Force, which is shown here at the moment, is, I spoke about this yesterday, but I'll maybe repeat myself, is directed by Trent Park, Narelle Ortio, and Matthew Bake. Now Trent and Narelle are some of Australia's most acclaimed photographers. Trent is a magnum photographer, and Narelle is extraordinarily accomplished in her career. And we worked with them to translate their work from a moving image gallery installation into VR. And that changed how we look at a lot of VR filmmaking. A lot of our work in the past, we've done zombie films, we've done documentaries, we've taken a Holocaust survivor back to Auschwitz, and they're all incredibly powerful, and we very much felt we were breaking new terrain. But when we worked with Trent and Narelle, we realized that there's so many more areas we can actually, well, so many more ways in which we can step back and assess what we're doing. For them, it was about art. It was a VR artwork, not a VR film, which meant the language and how they were trying to communicate wasn't around voiceover and actors. It was around how do they actually engage with the subconscious. How do we use the incredibly powerful experience potential of VR to unlock the subconscious? And that's what they were trying to do with their gallery exhibitions. That's how they designed it in terms of creating an immersive world. But when we gave them VR, it was terrifying for them at first because there were so many things that could be done. But it was a really powerful experience for us because it meant that we actually got to explore this alongside them and empower them to explore it as well. Now I'll also show an example of some works we've actually just got showing in South Australia at the moment. A gallery installation with James Dunn and Leslie Ford. It's a sculpture exhibition with some moving image and the string quartet and a whole bunch of other artists who have actually now come together to kind of cross-pollinate to create this artwork. So that for us was, how do we make VR social, but also how is it about VR? How do we augment the space around the sculpture rather than making all about headsets? And then with filmmakers, we've done about a dozen films now. We feature VR works that we're very proud of. Our relationship with post-productions of Matthew Bay has spanned for a few years now too. Quado, incredible filmmaker in South Australia, we made a great zombie film with him a year ago, and Cassidy Colling, we're working on some works with her too. So lots of different relationships. So the Adelaide Symphony, these works were pretty special for us because it was our first works in the arts that we really had a lot of success with. We didn't just record a concert, it was how do we get this out to people who wouldn't otherwise be able to go to concerts. And that was where the value proposition really was. So at first it was a VR activation for office workers to actually be able to switch off and watch these concerts. But more recently, we've actually been travelling to regional centres and in different parts of South Australia so we can bring the State Symphony, which is such a cultural icon, out to these people who wouldn't otherwise be able to access it. For us, that's a great value proposition in VR. But our thinking was turned on its head a little bit because we've got it wrong as much as we've got it right. And for us it was, I said before, it's about putting the objectives of the group in front of our objectives as a VR company. So when we look at their objectives, they're looking at audience development. They're looking at how do we bring more people to concerts and how do we bring our concerts to more people. And for us, it was when we looked at those parameters, it actually helped us clarify why we're doing these projects rather than just, hey, look, we've got VR, it's going to be great, it's going to be great, it's going to be great. We've recently started live streaming concerts too, but it's a challenging space when we get into rights deals as well, because we've got to be very careful with making sure that the artists are all looked after and comfortable with this process. And as a result, our relationship-first approach has worked really well. What else have we got? Education, going behind the scenes. We've done quite a few works in this space too. And we're really excited about the potential of this. But again, we're going very carefully and slowly to make sure that we've got a relationship with schools and the symphony to build the links rather than just throwing VR in there and then just making it work. It's the Sydney Dance Company. This work was an adaptation of an existing work. It was called Stuck in the Middle with You, and it was all about this person that falls asleep and then transports himself on stage with the Sydney Dance Company. And it's actually a first-person perspective, so as the dance is unfolding, as the performance is unfolding, the dancers are actually speaking directly with the audience. And when we premiered this at ACME, the Australian Centre for Moving Image, we had a dance bar set up, and 90% of people were actually dancing along with the performance because it was the first time they used VR. They had this emotional connection. It was a new experience for them, and as a result, we were actually able to tap into, well, we transported them there enough for them to actually dance along. So that was a pretty fun one for us. Now, Gideon Varsnek was the director and choreographer of the works. He was already choreographing the works for Sydney Dance Company, but this actually allowed him to work in the VR space. We empowered him to work in the VR space, and we've actually worked with him again. So now that he's actually got some confidence, he's learned some things in the space, I shouldn't say it like that. Now that he has some experience in the space, he saw some more potential. And together with Matthew Bate, who also directed this one, we've actually made another works. Now, this one's another adaptation with the dance script. It's called The Beginning of Nature. It was an established performance, and they translated it out into the South Australian wilderness, you could say. So, to create this experience where we could transfer people to locations rather than to bring them to a stage. So we premiered at the Adelaide Festival, World of Music Festival. It wasn't a film festival, but we're connecting in this space using VR. And this was the other one that Gideon and Matt directed. And we co-produced this as well with Closer Productions and the Arts Centre Melbourne. And this was actually based in the western suburbs of Sydney. It was gender non-conforming dance groups from all different walks of life doing this really fun and collaborative kind of dance battle. And we've had this premiered, we premiered these works at the Melbourne Film Festival that's been shown around the world, and yeah, it was a lot of fun for us to actually take it from the stage and out into the community. Now, the Australian String Quartet, we're also sponsoring. Now, they're a really exciting group because as a challenge with orchestras is they're so big, and to capture them in VR, you actually lose a sense of scale with that. But with the String Quartet, it's very much a conversation that happens. It's not a conductor with all the performers in front. And whilst that's a fantastic experience in different ways, it's a different value proposition for the String Quartet. There's a more intimate experience. And we've done a series of things. Earlier this year, we actually live streamed concerts to different stakeholders, so to different donors and important people within the community. The intention is to do it to the general public. That's always the intention. We don't just want to start with the people with the money, but for us it was not about that. It was the donors are actually important parts of this community. And this was an opportunity for us to actually say to them, look, we recognise your system and your structure, and we want to actually support you in everything that you're trying to do. So we actually live streamed it as well to a hospital bed, which was, yeah, it was pretty profound for a lot of people there who'd never even seen VR before, let alone used it, to actually have one of their compatriots and peers actually able to access this very special concert was a wonderful thing for us. But what that's led to is, well, whilst we're doing masterclasses and whilst we're live streaming and doing the concerts, we're actually collaborating on artworks with them now. So we're currently producing a feature virtual reality and mixed reality work with them and an Indigenous artist called William Barton, who's a really famous Australian didgeridoo player. He's from Mount Isa, the Kalkadoon people, and they have this fantastic work. I can't share too much about it, but they've already got this collaboration of Indigenous music meets traditional music with square circles beneath the sand. And when William Barton and Stephen King from the String Quartet actually saw Summation of Force, suddenly they're like, oh, there's all this potential. We can create these worlds and transform people beyond just filmmaking narratives, but into more of an art space. I'm not saying film is an art, I'm just saying that there are some different spheres of influence that definitely overlap, but they start seeing different potential in different areas. So I'd love to show more of that, but unfortunately I'm just going to skip through it. Summation, as I mentioned before, we're very proud of the works. We're very honoured to actually support them because it was such a personal project for them. It's an artwork actually about the children and the coming of age of cricket, from the innocence of backyard endeavour through to the anxiety of growing up, through to performance selection, through to what we turn sports people into. And Australian cricket at the moment is an interesting space with its identity. There was a cheating scandal relatively recently, and this for us was a way of actually cutting to the heart of what cricket is in Australia, what sport is, and the innocence and purity of kids battling in the backyard. So it's one we're very proud of, and we've appreciated a lot of the responses that we've heard from people that have seen it. Now this is the installation work that I mentioned previously. So after we did these works with Trenton Norell and Matthew Bay, we were introduced to a couple called James Darling and Leslie Ford. Now they're two of Australia's most famous artists, they're sculptors. They've done works all around the world. And they had this idea about, well, what if, in addition to their sculpture, they could actually transport people into a world? And this is currently showing at the moment. It's a contemporary art installation at the Hugh Shell Gallery in South Australia. So it's based around sculpture, but it's supported by digital projection and soundscape. And what we were really honoured by was we were actually able to help facilitate bringing the Australian String Quartet to the table with it. And that's part of what our role is. It's not just about the visual effects and the post-production. It's actually our role within the community, and the arts community in particular, to be able to sit outside the traditional hierarchies, the silos as it was put, to be able to help facilitate some of these projects. So at its core, Living Rocks expresses an ecological accommodation that is both a memory of our origin and prophecy of our future. So that's it there. So each of those sculptures are these things called thrombolites. They've been sculpted by using mallee roots that they've collected from this really remote part of South Australia. And thrombolites were an important part of our evolutionary history, where life actually it's one of the earliest forks in the evolutionary pathway. And they created these sculptures as part of a commentary of both where we come from and also where we're going, to give a sense of humility. And our job was to create a world to support that. Now, we thought we were doing virtual reality at the start, but it evolved into this. And it's also evolving back into VR in some ways, into others. That's another conversation. But we had to create what it looked like 3 billion years ago. So what's projected there actually changes over the course of 20 minutes. It's how it changes is actually designed around the music as well, which is Paul Stanhope's famous Australian composer, is a string quartet #2. And it was a bit of a challenge, because no one really knows what the world looked like 3 billion years ago. And for us, we had to actually be rigorous with it. So we worked with some university professors, we worked with two sculptors, we worked with the string quartet, and we worked with a whole bunch of installation people as well. So it's a really interesting mix that went into creating this. But as a result, we've actually found that it's been incredibly well received. And now it's opening other areas where we can start to apply VR and mixed reality. So, and these are some of the scenarios that we actually moved through. So as I mentioned before, we actually do sponsor a fair number of groups in the art space. Now, I understand not everyone can really do this. It's not a precedent we're trying to set. What we've been trying to do with this is, because we have successful lectures in the training space, in the infrastructure visualization space, in the mining space, and in some other spaces that we can't exactly mention, we've tried to stay true to making sure that the arts is at the center of what we're doing. My father's a filmmaker, and I was a pianist. We actually grew up with the arts. We didn't start in other areas and move in. But it's not just that. It's not our identity alone that actually helps us stay this path, I guess. There's a real excitement when it comes to working in the arts and VR. It's brilliant. It's the more people that we show summation to, so many, it's like a virus. It gets a mind of its own, and more people start talking to us. More artists want to do things. They want to try things. They want to experiment. They want to use it as a canvas, not just as a filmmaking medium. Now, we are using it as a filmmaking medium, but we're really excited how in all of these different areas of endeavour, VR is taking on a life of its own. We're wary of the tech cycle, because some of the funding agencies in South Australia, well not South Australia, but in Australia, have actually pulled back a little bit in VR. It's very hard to justify it when expectations for growth are like this with headsets. Yeah, it's kind of being closer to that. But for us, we're looking 5, 10, 20 years out in terms of our relationships. When we think about what VR could be, then that's really exciting for us. It could be all sorts of things if we navigate it the right way. It's not about shooting games, it's not about technological application alone. For us, we see it as a really powerful tool. Now, empathy has been spoken about a lot of film festivals. It's the empathy engine. And it was mentioned in the last talk as well. When people first see it for the first time, it's a really powerful experience. They've never seen anything like it. It's almost childlike glee of, this is life-changing. But one thing we're very worried about is saturation. When we thought about radio, when radio first came on the scene, it was revered, it was treated with a sense of value, but nowadays it's just on all the time. It's just in the background. With television, similar thing. We used to sit there and listen to it. Now it's shouting us, trying to demand attention. We're really worried with virtual reality that we could become saturated with experience. It's not a nice thing to say, but what we try to do is actually look at the ways it fails, not just the ways it succeeds. And that's been really key to actually navigating VR. We think it's going to be key for the next 5 years as well, now that we're getting to warm up. So by all means, we very much encourage everyone to do it, but also to be realistic about it too, and make sure that we're looking at all the ways it fails, not just the ways that it can change the world. So looking ahead, whilst we love cameras and headsets, we don't really want to talk about them first. We can do those things, so we want to talk about why we're doing things. As I said, we're trying to look 5, 10 years out. And to reiterate, arts needs to be at the centre of technology, And as filmmakers, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to actually engage and collaborate with other artists, to actually talk to people you wouldn't otherwise talk to, because filmmaking can be a silo too. And artists really need to be at the center of the conversation, because the language of VR is not resolved yet. Film has had 100 years, longer if you go back in terms of the language of the 2D art. VR is not like that. The first VR films that were cutting like film cut, it didn't work. So it's, for us, we're very interested in, okay, how is the language going to keep evolving over the next 10, 20 years to respond to the stories that we're trying to tell? And summation for us was a big part of that. It was a different way of telling stories for us, and we're excited at how little we know in that space. So I think that's it for me. So thank you.
谢谢Anton跟我们的分享。那我也一样先把机会留给现场的观众，有没有观众想要先提问？这边有一位，那您再举一下手，让我们现场的工作人员找到你，可不可以再帮我们举一下手？谢谢。
I'm interested in knowing in all of those symphony or orchestra production in VR, what's the perspective from the viewers? Do they still sitting in front of the symphony, or will they be a part of the musicians? How do you want them to enjoy the symphony in VR?
It depends. We've done all sorts of different perspectives. The simplest one being in front of the conductor. It seems to be, from an attention perspective, in the middle of everything. You can see the conductor, which means you've got the perspective of someone that's playing, but you can also look at the players and they're looking at you as if you're the conductor. Now, we did a work with the Sydney Opera House as well, where it was included, but the orchestra wasn't a feature. It was about more the building and some different narratives alongside that. That took a very different perspective. We've also looked at whether you could be an active member of the orchestra. Well, that's actually more in terms of the trios and the smaller ensembles, which are more conversation-oriented, so you actually sit in the position of a player. That's worked to an extent, but we're very wary of trying to give people instruments and have them play along, because there are challenges to that, which the idea sounds better than the reality, I guess. So we've tried quite a few different positions. We've done about 15 concerts with the Adelaide Symphony now, and there are we often have slightly different perspectives to a lot of those. So, I'll also add that what we also have is it's not just the symphony itself. It's usually you'll have the concertmaster or the conductor actually do an introduction and explanation, and that's usually filmed from the front, so you're actually an audience member, but then you're transported to the stage after that as well. And then to wrap it up at the end, we design a cup of tea afterwards, a little social aspect to it as well, so it's not just about the VR.
好，那还有其他的观众想要先提问的吗？那我想要在这边我自己有一个问题，就是说，像是Anton把这样子 VR 的想法，在跟不管是舞团或者是交响乐或者是弦乐这些的艺术团体提议说要拍 VR 作品的时候，有没有刚开始有一些他们的比较迟疑，还没有那么快的，有没有一些说服的过程，让他们愿意去接受这样子的一个拍摄？因为对他们来讲，也许比如说像是交响乐来讲的话，他们可能会对于音场会很在意，所以今天一个 VR 的作品，他们会不会觉得说这个不能够完全的，就是捕捉到我们这个古典音乐的一个氛围？
Yes, it took us a long time. So long that it's still going. So with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, wonderful people, but there's a lot of different types of people. You've got the business people, you've got the audience development people, and you've got the players as well. And there is some fear, and it's a valid fear that VR could actually replace a lot of things. Because if you can go to a virtual concert or symphony live at any time, well, which symphony do you go to watch? Is it the Adelaide Symphony? Is it the Berlin Philharmonic? Is it the LA Philharmonic? It's suddenly we're actually competing beyond our own domain, which is a challenge, and that should be met with skepticism. And at the same time, from an oral perspective, from an audio perspective, it's a challenge that they were right to have. Just because you're there doesn't mean it's the same experience. So So we're actually still doing a lot of work in understanding how to use directional audio in a way that can support the experience. And that's not a simple thing. It's not a case of just record it in a directional manner. You know, a lot of these professional groups won't let any recordings out whatsoever until they're mixed and up to a certain standard. So they're used to mixing in a 2D space, but some of them have got directional audio. Do you really want it to sound like it sounds there? You can't really hear the violas over there, and you can't really hear the horns back there, because when you're in the orchestra, it sounds very different to actually being out in the audience. So there are still unresolved questions, which is why we make it more about relationships in that space than we do about the projects. We say that we're going to do the best we can with the technology that's available, and as we progress, we actually want you guys to grow along with the technology. So that's how we've managed it, to make it relationship focused rather than VR focused. And that's why it's actually opened us up to organically moving into AR or MR with some of these works without it necessarily just being another gimmick.
那我想也再问一下关于，对，我想要问一下关于那个观众的这个部分，因为刚刚 Anton 有讲到说这些作品其实也有拿到观众的部分，然后观众也有去享受他们。那我想请问一下，就是说其实 VR 在观众的部分其实推广还是在早期，所以你们是怎么样子做的？就是说你们是有一组团队。把这些作品带到某一个地方去，或是跟哪一个组织合作，或是跟哪一个影展啊，或者是艺文机构合作吗？那跟观众的沟通又有碰到什么样子的问题？观众对于这个样子新的体验是全盘100%的接受的，或是一刚开始的时候也是有一点抗拒的。
We do it in different ways with different projects. So there are VR cinemas. We are not a VR cinema. We sometimes have work to go through these VR cinemas, and that's great. What we found is really effective in terms of making sure this organic is actually working through the community though. So with the Adelaide Symphony as an example to riff on, there's a great group of the Friends of the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra. They're a volunteer group. The average age is not young, they're a little bit older. And they've actually been the ones running the activations that we've been doing. So when the Adelaide Symphony toured South Australia, you had these people who were 50 plus actually putting their headsets together and running the events, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it, because a lot of the time we make the mistake of thinking, oh, it's tech, it's for young people. Now, VR is actually great for all audiences because it doesn't require technical proficiency. All it really requires is the ability to have an experience. And to continue on that, we've seen a lot of virtual reality move into aged care homes in Australia, where people who are, or in hospitals too, people who are unable to go to, unable to leave the premises, or it's very difficult to move, are able to have experiences. But what we found is people weren't really connecting with it. There's only so many roller coasters you can do and skydiving you can do before it actually starts to become a little bit boring. But what the Adelaide Symphony was it's actually an extension of the community. It's something that they had as part of their value system in Adelaide and South Australia. There's an aspirational side of it as much as a cultural aspirational side of it as much as just this is entertainment. And as a result, it was driven with, as an example, it's driving for the right reasons. So we had volunteers from the Friends of the Adelaide Symphony, taking it to people who really wanted to go to concerts, but couldn't go to concerts. And as a result, we didn't have to worry about setting up cinemas and investment and overheads and all these things. It was an organic kind of impulse that occurred from the actual community of the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra. And that took time. That took time, that took a lot of pride, that took a lot of patience, and now that's up and running, we actually can't stop it. It's fantastic.
谢谢。那还有观众想要提问吗？不然我就要再把最后一个问题再留。好，那可以请麻烦您那个，对，请麻烦给我。那可以麻烦您也帮我们翻译一下中文吗？因为这样子的话，那个听众也可以知道你在问的问题。谢谢。
我的问题是刚才有讲到，就是不管是舞蹈的表演，或者是交响乐等等这些的表演，当它做成 VR 之后，它的获利模式是什么样子的？以及举个例子，我还是回到刚才我说角度的问题，就是当你在拍摄比如说是 symphony 或者是一个舞蹈的表演，如果对 player 就是对玩的人来讲，当他是在 stage 在舞台上， 在这些舞者当中，或者是在音乐家当中，这个它会是一个 enjoyable experience 嘛？就是因为对他而言，他只是要欣赏，他自己并不是一个 musician or a dancer。这个我很难想象说这会是一个it takes more involvement, but sometimes you just want to be a passive audience.
I'll answer the second question first. We do both passive and active projects. So with the symphony, it's passive. You're not interacting with it, you're not changing things. It's you're there to. We try to keep that as elegant and simple as possible. You're there to actually appreciate the performance. Now with the City Dance Company works, that was an interactive experience. They were talking in the first person to you in the first person. They're asking you to do things. You're actually talking to them back through the voiceover. So we have different types of experiences, and we believe that we watch them for different reasons. So for us, we're not trying to build things for people. We're trying to, well, in many ways, we do what the artists want us to do. We usually have quite a few ideas, but for us, we'll say an idea, and then it will grow, and then it will grow, and then it will grow. That comes to the second part, which is about the business model side of things. We're notoriously bad with business models or making money in the arts industry. It's not our goal, first and foremost. We're actually an investor in these works. We invested in the sculpture works, we invested in summation forms. We're very good at business in other areas, but one of the reasons for that is I have a slight criticism of the filmmaking process in exploration. When things are too rigid, and particularly when you've got structured business plans involved, it becomes very industrialized. It becomes almost this Henry Ford view of the world that you write the script, you do the production, you do the post, and you move through. Which is fine, you can produce great works like that, but there's a lot of creative tension in there because the creativity wants to experiment, it wants to play, it wants to explore, really. So the way that we actually worked with Summation of Force was we put half our staff on it and said, look, you guys just play, explore this space, have as much fun as you want to have. And similarly with the James Darling work, it's part of our job, part of our role, because we're not a funding agency and we're also not the artists. We're actually this middle ground group. We can provide the time and space to be able to do that. Now, in terms of recruitment for works once they've been created, we do have works on the Jaw tab or the VR applications which you can sell works to or use the traditional filmmaking process of you find a sales agent and they'll sell it to different territories. But we're finding that the edition model for the arts is really interesting, where we actually sell editions of the work as a VR artwork. And particularly for works where we're building this around artists, we have to work like that because they've got a real personal brand that they're dealing with. But we've found that it also helps from an exhibition perspective, because suddenly it's not pushed into this VR app space, which is, very honestly, rather saturated. There's not a lot of money there, there's a lot of free content. And the rate of growth of the headsets isn't exactly high. Whereas if we partner with an institution, and this is happening around the world, at LACNA, it's happened at pretty much a lot of major cities and their galleries have done VR installations now. If we can sell works to them as visual artworks, using the moving image work model, that actually, we found a lot of success on that front too. So we don't really know where it's going, but we're playing it one move at a time, I guess.
好，那因为现在时间也差不多到了，所以我们今天对Anton这边的讲座就进行到这边。那大家再掌声谢谢一下Anton、ANDEREACCHIO，还有跟我们分享，虽然不只是关于艺术部分，然后还有在艺术类画上应用。那下午的讲座会在1个小时之后2点开始，那也请大家再回来继续听下午3场关于法国的讲座，还有最后1场的座谈。谢谢。